Good morning, Al. Hope you're all well. Welcome to Brothers IT Downtime in Retail session. I'm Pete Shackleton, Head of End User Sales at Brother UK, supporting commercial and public sector verticals. I've been at Brother for 18 years now in a variety of different roles, such as second line technical support, product specialist, and pre-sales manager. Here today with me in the room, I have Carl Wilson and Robert Turner, and I will pass over to them now to introduce themselves.
Hi everyone, my name is Carl Wilson. I'm a commercial business manager here at Brother UK. I've been at Brother now for over 12 years. During that time, I've done a variety of roles, including technical support, end user telesales, and as a pre-sales technical consultant.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Rob Turner. I'm the commercial business manager for the South. I've been at Brother for around 3 years now, helping retailers and commercial organisations to reduce costs while increasing efficiency within their operations.
Thank you, chaps. So today we're here to talk about IT downtime in retail. Most people will recognise IDC as an independent market intelligence firm. IDC believe that up to 15% of IT time is focused on print-related issues. To put that into context, you could potentially be looking at up to 39 working days per annum being spent on printer-related calls. Wouldn't you like to free up that time to focus on other important IT projects? We appreciate that IT teams other considerations such as compliance, security, and sustainability consider. However, that figure is still high. Let's discuss a little further and take a closer look into what we mean by downtime, and then most importantly, what potentially you could do about it. So Rob, I'd like to ask you if you could give some context into what do we mean by downtime?
So downtime isn't just about tech issues, of course, that plays a huge part. It's helping IT and store operations not feel like they're getting pulled from pillar to post. So the number of service desk calls, the unplanned work, which will reduce the everyday store operations. But by working with a manufacturer that understands your needs, your pain points, and that can help you build a bespoke, fit-for-purpose solution, this will reduce the burden on IT resources and help store operations to focus on serving their customers. So simply, less downtime equals fewer service calls, which means more time for IT department to focus on all the priorities.
Okay, so a lot of factors can contribute to downtime then, but ultimately, if the demand or the pressures associated to printer-related calls are being put on IT teams, potentially it might be worthwhile looking at the overall organisation print strategy to identify those bottlenecks. The big question here now is what do we do about reducing that IT downtime? Carl, have you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's a variety of methods we could use to look at reducing IT downtime. The best option, in my opinion, would be to take a strategic approach, which helps us to fully understand the customer's working environment, what works for them, what their needs are, what the requirements are, what works for them, what doesn't work, what current projects they have, and what future projects they have. And based on all this information, we then design a bespoke solution that not only removes those pain points and those issues, but adds something further to it. So it exceeds their expectations in what we want to provide. So in a nutshell, understanding the customer from start to finish, all their processes and the way they work, helps create this solution that removes these issues that exist at the present. I mean, one thing to note from an IT perspective is more IT resource and more machines doesn't necessarily mean reduced downtime. It's about the solution that's encompassing that to help reduce that downtime. But there are a few simple elements we can introduce, such as automated genuine supplies. This means that the in-store colleagues do not have to physically go onto a portal and order a toner, and this is only generally done once it's actually run out, so the printers now stop printing, or ring up procurement, involve them to ring around and find the best possible price and then get it ordered and shipped to site. This means that the toners will be there, inks, drums, toners, etc. will be sat there waiting on a shelf, ready to go into the printer when they expire, which means the knock-on effect to in-store operations is reduced significantly. It's running in the background with no need for IT and procurement to actually get involved. So the uptime has increased dramatically from that point of view. Secondly, you've got the option of service level agreements, so SLAs wrapped around a printer. This means that the printer is fully covered from a manufacturing point of view. So if there is an issue with the printer, then 9 times out of 10, it's up and running the next business day. Again, minimal or very low impact to in-store operations. From brother perspective, we'll answer the call within, on average, 1 hour 40 minutes, and we repair 95% of those calls over the phone, which means a low percentage of engineers that do need to attend will be there the next business day to repair it in situ. So again, very low touch from IT and everyone else involved, which takes the owner from IT even to have an actually go to site. And again, it can be run in the background with them having a very minimal touch on that. So this is little small factors which result in large gains from reducing downtime, printer downtime.
Thanks, Al. So to summarise what you're saying there, so if we remove the hassle from associated print, such as consumable replenishment or having peace of mind, there's a service level agreement wrapped around devices, that should help reduce IT burden and free up their valuable time to focus on other IT projects.
Absolutely, and we can also provide some of the tools that we have in our toolkit to help IT proactively monitor these devices even further, so they can get alerts through, say a printer's got this fault, that fault, so forth and so on, with a sort of red traffic light system, red, green and amber, to determine the status of the device at a glance in real time before the store even gets in contact and logs the ticket. So this is more of a proactive approach as well. So you combine all that together, it can significantly reduce the downtime in stores. Yes.
Sounds great. Thank you, Cal. Another question for you, Cal, is thinking about your own experiences today. Could you share with us an example on how you've helped other retail customers increase their efficiencies?
Yeah, of course. It's not just about the physical printer itself. It's about all the processes and everything else that surround it that probably haven't been thought about or utilised correctly. One of them that springs to mind is a large supermarket chain, one of the top 3 within the UK. Just to give you a bit of background, they're already using our printers in their general office to print the shelfage labels, and also had a scan-to-network solution set up that was geared around their right to work process. Due to a restructuring of the whole of the HR department, so taking them from an in-store, each store had its own HR department within store, to more a central location. We sat down with IT and HR and looked at the current process. It was a bit cumbersome and a bit clunky, so we sat down and spoke with both departments and worked out what we could do to make that smoother, more efficient and more effective. And we moved them from a scan to network, which entailed IT creating the various network locations, for example, managing those folders, granting access, removing access, managing the data from a GDPR perspective, the storage of the data and so forth and so on, which was quite clunky and messy. We moved them to a scan to email solution. Now, this incorporated anyone within the domain could send these attachments to anyone, but only within that domain itself. So no confidential information could be sent external from the company, as it were. This allowed them to then send it direct into their HR systems, which removed a lot of the manual work. But then we went one step further and questioned about if they were audited or they had to provide evidence that they'd employed this person by doing their due diligence first. We spoke with our engineers, who we have direct access to in Japan, and created some bespoke firmware which allowed us to embed the time and date stamp in the bottom left-hand corner of the document. This incorporated not only the time and date, but also the store number as well. So not only could they, because when you rename a PDF that's been sent through and it's a passport or a driving license, for example, the time and date stamp's actually moved to when that document's then renamed. So you've lost the original time and date stamp of when that was processed. So you've got no way of confirming that you've done all your due diligence and took the correct documentation, an ID, for example, prior to commencing employment. And if you look at someone like these supermarkets who employ hundreds, if not thousands, of temporary staff over a big period, that can easily get lost, and the repercussions in getting fined for that can be quite substantial. So all it takes is a few missed documents or a few processes that are not followed to result in a big expense to the company, and obviously a PR nightmare in some respects as well. So we embedded this time and date step on, which allowed them to then fully audit every single document that's coming in. So whether it was an internal or external audit, we could obviously set it up for them. It worked particularly well and took a lot of burden away from IT, but also reduce the amount of steps involved. So we made it a one button touch to scan the email addresses in. We had some pre-populated email addresses that could be used at a glance, or you could search for an individual one just by typing a few of the characters. It was tied in with the Active Directory system as well. So we took them from a solution that they were said was working and happy to one that exceeded their expectations. And a lot of the soft costs involved, which are not usually able to quantify as such, were also high in this regard, but it's helped them with GDPR compliance, security, and so forth and so on.
Sounds like a great solution being implemented. I'm sure most of today's attendees will recognise the complexities and compliance associated to right to work processes, but by implementing a solution which removes the human error, makes it seamless for people to obviously input those documentations what's required, will also help to reduce the burden on the IT staff and store operations, most importantly.
Yeah, you made some great points there. The human error side and the automation side are big positives, absolutely. You know, and help, obviously, again, it helps the colleagues focus on their day-to-day working activities instead of worrying about these other things that may go wrong or may not go wrong. And by utilising these methods and these solutions, it takes away that worry and that onus from the store colleagues themselves, and allows them to, again, to focus on what needs to be done to keep the business running, really.
So, Carl, you also mentioned earlier about implementing automated supplies fulfillment for some of your customers. Now, I appreciate that most organisations who have experienced management before would see this as the norm, but do you have any examples on how this has helped customers from an IT perspective, but most also importantly from the store operations?
Yeah, I've got a great example, actually. So we work with a very popular high street bakery that seems to be springing up all over the place. Now, they were using, or are using, our printers in the back of store. They got in contact to say that they were having a large amount of issues, especially machine failures. Now, obviously, looking at that model that we provide to them is across many different verticals, healthcare being one of them, printing thousands of scripts every single day. We're using with no issues to the printer, so I was quite surprised about this. So we've obviously made the contact with this bakery firm, got a few of their printers in here at Brother UK in our service centre to test, along with the suppliers. It quickly came to light that they were using compatible toners or third-party toners remanufactured, clearly not manufactured to the specification of genuine Brother suppliers. This in turn was affecting the printer, so they were working at first, but ultimately after they've been used for a short while, that started causing a host of issues with the printers. So once we verified and confirmed this, they were open to the idea of looking at automated genuine suppliers. So we did a trial period and ran X amount of stores over a period of time using the genuine suppliers, and the service desk calls just for those stores alone decreased significantly. This obviously highlighted the fact that these compatibles were causing these issues in what otherwise is a reliable and robust machine that's been tried and tested across many different verticals for a good few years up to now. So since that's been in now, which is a good 12 to 18 months, I'd say, the service desk calls from print related aspects has dropped off a cliff effectively. They've reduced substantially. We've now got to a point where we are rectifying 98% of the calls that come in over the phone. So they'll log a call onto our service desk, second level support pick it up, contact them within a 4-hour period. The average response time, as I alluded to earlier, is now actually 1 hour and 40 minutes. And 98% of those calls are actually repaired over the phone. If we do need to get an engineer out to site, then obviously again, it's the next business day. But just to put it into perspective, from going from where they were 12 to 18 months ago to where they are now, we're at a point where we are having 99.96% uptime across 2,500 units. So that in itself is a huge indicator of implementing something as simple as genuine automated suppliers, let alone the whole bit of getting them delivered to the site when needed, but the effects it has on running and working with the printer effectively and efficiently. And it's took them from this position to that position in 12 months. And the statistics and the evidence is there to be seen as well. So they're very much happy with that now. So a point where they're expanding at however many stores per month, and the Brother printers going straight in the bag with genuine suppliers.
Some fantastic statistics there, Carl. It's also probably keen to hear about the food contamination risk.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a very valid point, and yeah, I should have covered that. With these compatible toners as well, unfortunately, we're getting a lot of leakage So that is, for those that don't know, a toner is effectively powder within a unit, as opposed to an ink that you may get in an inkjet. And that was obviously leaking out. So when they're opening it there, they're working in an environment with food, clearly. That's what they deal with. And there was a possibility of cross-contamination. You don't get that with the other genuine suppliers because they're designed to work in that printer and not to leak and to work as expected. So that also removed a huge element which could have been, from a legal perspective, and a food health and safety perspective, extremely detrimental to their image and the way they work. So yeah, that's always another big point, which another issue which was alleviated and relieved just by providing genuine supplies.
And certainly aligned to the sad occasion with the Natasha's law and the food allergen legislation.
Absolutely, huge talking point. And it's also helped them become more sustainable because we provide free of charge recycling for all of our toners. They're in a full manufacturing cycle, zero to landfill. So not only are they now getting reduced service calls, we removed the food contamination aspect. The service desk tickets have gone down completely. There's also an 80% cost saving versus transactional, believe it or not.
Wow.
So these compatibles, although they may seem like a great investment at the time, they're actually a sort of a false economy. So yes, they may be cheaper to buy originally, you'd think, but the knock-on effects come there. But ultimately, we've proved that the genuine suppliers have relieved all of these issues completely from what they were having before.
So when we mention IT downtime, we picture disruption to a service, which of course is true. But how do you measure the impact or costs associated to that downtime? Rob, have you got any thoughts on that?
So the real costs for downtime includes physical costs, such as device failure. If a device does fail, then you've got engineer call-outs, potentially then a replacement device, which are all very easy to measure. But what people don't take into account is also the soft costs. So which are normally overlooked in a business, which could impact financially, such as turnover. These include like calls into help desks. You've got store operations making them calls into IT, which is then taken away from serving the customers, like I mentioned before. But that time all adds up. They're on they'll be on a wage, they'll be on a salary. All that time will add up, which obviously then would fetch your top line, which is obviously a turnover.
I agree, Rob. It's very easy just to consider the bottom line, which is obviously, especially from procurement led. But soft costs do play a vital part in a store operations. So it's key that we do need to bring that into people's time and the overall inefficiencies across the whole operation.
So Rob made a good point there about soft costs being overlooked and not being taken into consideration. Now, if we just look at the scenario I mentioned about the popular high street bakers, if they've got one member of staff spending an hour a week dealing with printer issues, that's 1 hour across per one employee per 2,500 stores. So that's technically 2,500 hours per week, which is 10,000 hours a month, 120,000 hours a year spent dealing with printer issues or rectifying printer issues, whatever that may be. If you quantify that in terms of what you're paying that person, man, woman, etc., to do that job over that many hours, that adds up to a huge figure. Again, not something that should be overlooked and put to one side and considered again going forward. So ultimately, yes, soft costs have just a bigger impact, if not more, than the actual hard costs associated to it all as well. So I think the whole point is, excuse me, looking at the picture as a whole and having the correct solution in place is key and absolutely key in reducing this downtime.
Certainly puts it into perspective when you talk about how much manpower or employee time is obviously used on handling printer downtime.
Yeah, it's substantial.
So thinking about obviously how organisations can overcome those challenges.
Yeah.
What have you got any recommendations on how they could do that?
I think for me, and I'll keep referring back to it, I think working with a manufacturer such as Brother, who is going to be able to design, create and implement a bespoke solution that's effectively fit for purpose, but not only fit for purpose, but exceeds expectations. And the only way to do that is to really understand the customer's core business from the ground up right through to the top, but not only their current situation and current projects, but what they've got in the pipeline as future projects as well. Now these can be implemented into the print solution and switched on as and when they're ready to do so. So not only are you providing something that eliminates these downtime, but you're also looking at implementing something that can be switched on very easily in the future to continue, if not decrease these sort of these points even further. Which in turn will yield a return on investment, and that's usually on average within a 12-month period. So the economies of scale, should I say, start to tip in this direction, where there's soft cost and hard cost savings, and that continues throughout the life of the contract. What we like to do is we don't just say, right, here's your equipment, here's your suppliers, here's your service. We continually keep in contact with the end user customer via quarterly business reviews, and we look and constantly reassess the solution that we put in place, how we can make it more efficient, how we can improve it. And we do that on an ongoing basis by helping reduce PRIM, sustainability in terms of using the machine to its full capacity and sweating that asset completely. So instead of them having to purchase more printers, we reuse what we've already got. And that's throughout the life of the contract, where we look to try and get to a point where they can extend again for a further 12 months, because the printer is now classed as an asset as opposed to a consumable, and it's still got enough life left in it where it can remain in situ and continue to work by just making a few observations, like swapping the top 20 or 30 printing stores with the bottom printing 20, 30 stores, and move things around and constantly rejig and re-look at what's going on within their environment. So sort of at your side from start to finish and beyond, really, is the way we like to work. And what we've found leads to to customer satisfaction and them wanting to work with us again and again and again in the future, really.
So I think most organisations would like to recognise a return on investment.
Yeah.
But it's quite hard to measure. So
Yeah.
I like to look at it from more of like a return on expectation. So how you're removing those pain points and addressing them, and obviously making that things easier for them in the future. But surely by implementing a new solution, isn't that going to introduce further downtime?
Well, I mean, I think if you look at it in any way, not just a printer, I mean, whether it's a POS system or iPads or new Wi-Fi infrastructure, whatever it may be, there's always going to be an element of downtime. It's probably very difficult to come away from that. But there's ways of minimizing that downtime and that impact. So, for example, here at Brother, what we would do is through proof of concepts, we'd have the solution nailed down, designed, and signed off to a degree that we know that's the working solution that's going to work. As soon as we drop it in there, it's going to work from the word go. So we'll look at doing sort of the assessment using our project managers in terms of a rollout perspective, the best times to install, the best locations to install in at specific times, whether that's regions or cities, whatever it may be, and making sure that's runs particularly smoother. Our pre-sales guys will be the ones that will design solutions, put the POCs and get all them signed up so we know it fully works. But then we'll utilize our pre-configuration process to actually put all the settings onto the printer prior to even arriving at site. So effectively, when an engineer does turn up, it's more of just a plug and play scenario. Test the documents, test the scan, do some training as well with the users on site, which again all helps cut down on downtime. And the quicker we can get the printer installed and up and running working with this minimal disruption to the store colleagues as possible, then that is what we'll do, and that is how we actually do it as well. And that way it means we can get through more installations and roll the projects out in a quicker time scale, causing the very least minimal amount of disruption possible, really.
So I think naturally as humans we are resistant to change. But I think by having elements like you mentioned there, Carlin, to make it as seamless as possible and make it as less cumbersome to the users who are using these devices, so they can focus on doing what they're paid to do, which is focus on their day jobs. That will obviously all help with things, IT and store operations working in harmony with each other, and ultimately getting your best solution possible.
I mean, there is always resistance to change, because obviously people are sort of afraid of change and they've got used to something and the way something works. But ultimately, what you're looking at doing is removing something that may have been in there for a period of time now that isn't functioning as it should, that they aren't utilising to its full capacity and using all the relevant functions, etc., and replacing it with something with newer, shinier, better, and improved. So that resistance to change very turns in the opposite direction very quickly once they realise what they're actually getting now, how efficient, and quick, and easy, and seamless it is. And then you change hearts and minds, and before you know it, it just becomes the norm again, really.
So, as you both know at Brother, we pride ourselves on being at your side. So, Rob, do you have any examples on how you've worked with your customers in the past and how you ensure that we're delivering a best-in-class service?
So Brother are 100% channel centric, meaning we don't sell direct. However, we do have that engagement with the end users for the likes of this session we've got now. We do, which that means we're working with resellers. We've got a host of major resellers that we can go to, who then we can work together to provide the best commercials for viable solution for the end users requirements. I do personally believe the best vendor and reseller should become that trusted advisor to the end user, which will then naturally become basically part of their IT team, which I think we have done very well with opportunities we've worked on in the past. But then also what we're here at Brother we do is, I think Carl touched on it previously, is once we've put the devices in, we've connected them all, and then we work with that end user going forward to any changes in technology, or if any of their processes changed, we'll be there on hand to support any of them changes.
Which is very important when we see how fast the demand for technology and customer processes and businesses change in this current landscape.
Definitely.
So, Carl and Rob, thank you for your time today on there. Would you like to give any final thoughts from each of you associated to IT downtime?
Shall I go, Rob?
Yeah.
I think from my point of view, it's recognizing that, you know, there's not one size fits all. So here at Brother, we're not just going to grab something off a shelf and go, there you go. You can pick a number of services and elements off the so-called shelves and put them in a basket. But we're going to help look to design a solution that's going to incorporate everything you need within that basket. So if we took a template from one customer and put it onto another, then it's not going to be as effective and efficient as it was with the previous customer, because again, each one is different, each one works differently. So I think without doing your due diligence and being able to fully understand your customer, effectively get in bed with your customer to a degree, embed yourself into their world and feel their pain and understand their pain and what their goals and sort of requirements are going forward as well as a company. I don't think you're ever going to be able to provide something that's ultimately going to be completely fit for purpose. So by doing these things and doing this groundwork first and trying it and testing it and implementing it and revising it again and testing it again and then putting in the finalized solution that's been signed off, I think is the way to actually go. What I have come to realize over my years at Brother is a printer is just a printer until it effectively breaks. And then, you know, all of a sudden everyone's clambering around trying to get it sorted out. And it tends to be the last area, we've talked about this before, haven't we, Rob? It tends to be the last area of the business that people have actually sat down and properly looked at and scrutinized from end to finish. They tend to do it with all their other equipment, the laptops, the PCs, you know, the file, whatever it may be. That tends to be done where this tends to get pushed to the side and sort of forgot about and left to its own devices until it does start to go wrong. And then when it is fully looked at, it starts to ring alarm bells about how inefficient and cost and uncost effective it actually is. So I think one of the things is we'd like to say, me and Rob are more than happy to come and meet with you, to come and sit down to assess and look at what you've got, and you know, make what recommendations we can do to help try and make it better for you. And I mean, there's no obligation to it, but just a simple conversation may open up a whole new thought process on how you can improve things and continue to improve things as well, not just from a cost perspective and a print perspective, but a sustainability point of view, your soft costs, everything else involved, and the wider parties that you wouldn't think would be affected by a printer, but that ultimately are.
Thank you, Cam. Rob, have you got any final words?
Yeah, I just think in the retail sector, as we all know, every customer interaction matters. So printer downtime might seem a minor issue for some, but the knock-on effect, as we just discussed, could be substantial. So something that printer might just affect other parts of the business without unknowingly to the company. But yeah,
because you're right. Because ultimately, if the people that are feet on the ground doing the customer interactions, trying to sell obviously the products, which keeps the business going, which is the whole point of them trading in the first place, is being taken away from that shop floor and being taken away to then it's less time spent with the customers, a possible sale missed out and so forth and so on. So you multiply that, like you said, across multiple locations, then again, before you know it, the knock-on effects are huge. I agree completely.
Okay, gentlemen. So I'm mindful that throughout the session you've give snippets and associations like assessment and transition and stuff. So just for the audience, I just want to walk you through our three-phased approach, which you can see on screen now on the slides. But we have assessment, transition, optimization. And this is fundamentally how we put our solution together from start to end. So in the assessment phase, it's all focused on understanding your current pain points, your current print fleet, understanding any of the bottlenecks, things that are going wrong, designing a new solution, testing that new solution by doing a proof of concepts, but also aligned to a user acceptance testing. Make sure everyone's signed off, whether that be from store operations or from an IT perspective. Once that's all complete and done, the next part, which is normally inherently troublesome for most IT projects, which is how do you roll that out? And how we roll that out, as Carl alluded to during the session, was about we use our Prince2 project management team. They're associated to make sure that communication management, risk registers, lessons learned, any areas such as like RAMs, access is all done. But also to make sure that the transition period goes as seamless as possible and it doesn't affect any of the store operations. Then the final part, which is where we truly live and breathe at your side, is optimization. Is all about making sure that the solution is still continues to be fit for purpose throughout the length of the contract, and making sure, as Rob alluded to, if as the evolving needs and demands change within technology, if we need to flex the solution design what's already been put in there, we would support you with that. How we do that, we do quarterly business reviews by our service delivery team, who are ITIL trained. They'll come in to talk about continuous improvement, doing capacity management, talk about sweating devices and your assets, also look at sustainability measures. What you might not be aware of is we do have a printer for every application. So again, as you can see on screen now, so our whole vast range of technology. You may have only seen us as being a desktop print, but we do have obviously printers available for like label printing, warehouse printing, forklift truck, etc. So that's it from us. I'd like to thank everyone on the call today for your time and your attention. Carl and Rob, thank you for your time and your input. Really appreciated.
Thanks for having us.
We're willing to offer a free print assessment for all those attendees on the call today and proof of concept should that be required. So if you'd like to hear anything else from us or you have any other queries, then please feel free to get in contact with us with the details on the slide there. But Carl, Rob, anything further for you guys?
No, just again to reiterate what Pete said, thank you very much for joining and taking the time to listen. We really do appreciate it. And if you'd like to reach out, no such thing as a daft question, by all means, please do so.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.